G'day, leaders. In this podcast, we talk about the skill or the technique of responsibility tennis, hitting the responsibility back into their court when somebody's being pessimistic, whinging, maybe insulting, a whole range of different areas. But responsibility tennis takes it out of your side of the court and puts it back into theirs. Enjoy.
Why did it count backwards? I know that we're now recording.
What? Hello, Captain.
What do I...
Come fly with me. Let's fly away.
What are we going to talk about?
I don't know. So, leadership, life, and everything else.
Yeah.
And we're live in Melbourne.
Yes, we're live recording in Melbourne.
Wasn't that a wanky voice that I put on? I think I've used that one before. Hey, Michelle.
Hi, Guy.
In Melbourne.
Yes, but finally.
We tried to get down here early this morning for work tomorrow, but the rain held us.
Yeah,
back in
and
Sydney.
fog. It's actually, the cloud's really low. It's on the buildings.
You would have experienced this a fair bit when you were travelling.
Yeah, I didn't mind disrupt days. It wasn't great for passengers, but it was a bit of an adventure where you'd end up and whether you'd actually fly or not. So, yeah, it was always exciting.
Yeah, the pilot and the captain and the cabin crew were very apologetic this morning.
Yes, that's right. They can't do anything about it. So.
Yeah, the airports have to, cancel some flights and stall others so that we can all come in safely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So we're down here doing some influence training for one of our clients.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to it. But today I wanted to chat to you about something that we both use a lot, and it's the concept of responsibility tennis.
Yeah, I didn't realise I'd been using it until when I met you and you gave it a name. So responsibility tennis, and of course it makes sense. But yeah.
Yeah, so the concept is, let's say somebody's whinging at you or complaining about something, they're very pessimistic. Responsibility tennis is simply hitting the responsibility to come up with a solution back in their court. So what it looks like is, okay, so what can we do about that?
That's right.
Yeah, so it can be gentle, it can be kind. You say, okay, so how do we fix that? What do we need to do? What have you tried?
Rather than trying to fix and provide the answer and fill the space all the time, it's you put it back on the person.
That's it. So you put the responsibility back in their court. Okay, so what can we do about it? What have you tried? What have you done about it? Who could you speak to? Who haven't you spoken to? Who's done it before?
Yeah.
Who's the expert in this area? I've got lots of them.
I'm curious as to why you have that opinion. Tell me more. I'm curious. I want to learn. So rather than saying you're an idiot, I disagree. But also saying that gives you the opportunity to listen then, rather than to trying to fill in.
And see it from their perspective. One of the things I like about this technique is that it allows you to kind of create a barrier around yourself. I'm sure you're a bit like me, Michelle, that when people are coming at you with their problems and that sort of thing, it's easy to take on board their energy. They're, a compassionate person like yourself, you take on board what's going on, excuse me, what's going on in their lives. And what that tends to do is, as somebody who's high in empathy, you tend to then carry around a lot of other people's stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of stress. And so, if you can build a bit of a barrier around yourself, whereby if anyone whinges, you can kind of see it coming in, and you just simply hit the responsibility back over the barrier into their side of the court. Okay, so how do we fix this? What do you need to do? What can you do? And it actually gives the person agency, which I think is a very useful thing for us to do for each other.
Yeah, well, it becomes a habit, being a bit of a victim, and you see it. There may be some people in your friend circle, colleagues, family members who, you know that when they come to you, there's going to be a bit of a whinge happening, or something bad is happening, and there are people who are very unfortunate. However, there are also people who have a little bit of a few bad things happen, but they tend to carry that around for a long time. Yeah. So rather than thinking, oh, here comes this person, when you do this, like you said, gives them agency, and also helps them break the habit, because once you've been in that, and I'm guilty of being a victim and carrying that around for a while, that being my story, and once you're out of it and you have that ability to see that you are out of it and you were in it, then I used to be horrified and think, oh my goodness, like what a horrible person I would have been to be around. But now I look back at myself with compassion and, okay, give myself a virtual hug. I'm not there anymore. But it was actually a colleague that, said to me, oh, everything bad seems to happen to you. What are you going to do about it? And just asking highlighting the fact that it was everything bad, and I'm like, no, it's not. But then that had been my story, and then asking me what I was going to do about it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm responsible. It's my responsibility, no one else's.
It's funny, you do meet people like that who almost. Tell me if you've noticed this, that I've had people in my life that when you speak to them, it's almost like they drag your whinging out of you. Your victimhood out of you because they want to hear it.
That's it. It's drama.
And then they get used to it. And so then they see you again next time. You might be in a great mood, but then all of a sudden you're talking to them about something negative in your life. And I've noticed that in the past, and I try to catch myself whenever I go into that victim mindset where you're whinging about something, complaining about something, rather than focusing on what you can do about it. But it's funny. There are some people who bring it out in you, and you've got to be conscious of those people as well, because you don't want somebody to only see you as a source of their intrigue in your negative stories.
It's almost like the junk food of feelings, isn't it? You don't.
It's like I like that. The junk food of feelings. You
can become addicted.
That's good. You do.
Yeah.
It's like a
it's
sugar
not good
rush.
For you.
No. But there are a lot of people who are addicted to that drama, and so when you have somebody coming at you with their own negative story, if you can hit it back into their court and say, okay, so what can you do about it? It kind of releases the tension from that situation, but more importantly, it gets them thinking with a different part of their brain. Okay, how do I fix this? What can I do about it? How do I move myself out of this situation? And we all need friends like that. In fact, I'm very lucky whenever I've been caught in that, I've got some great friends who I tend to lean on in those sort of situations that just simply do that. They grab their tennis racket, they hit it back into my court, and they go, all right, that sucks. What are you going to do now? Sort of thing. And so if you intentionally find those people, they're a gold mine.
But it also protects you from having it affect you, like you said, about that it attaches to you. It gives you that space. So one, you don't resent the person and run when you see them coming, but also it's, you walk away, you've actually helped the person, whether they see it at the time or not.
Yeah.
And you're then able to, because you haven't taken on their stuff, you're able to help someone else.
We've got somebody that we know. I'll name him actually. Yeah. Greg. He's brilliant at diverting a conversation away from the negative. I love this about him. He's really good about this. He's good with this. And I've noticed he did it with me a couple of times when we met up out on the street, and I can't remember what I was saying, but I do remember him diverting to the positive, and I thought, oh, I like that about you. That's brilliant. No, it's really good.
Greg's a fellow aerosexual, so
yes, he is. Now the other place you can use responsibility tennis, or hitting the responsibility back into the other person, is it's related to confidence and knowledge. So have you ever had somebody challenge your thinking or say you're wrong?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So this responsibility tennis technique can be used in those sort of situations. So if, Michelle, you said to me, hey, no, I disagree, you're wrong, I can now hit the responsibility back into your court to explain to me, hey, okay, how do you see it? Now the responsibility is back in your court. You now have to show me how I'm wrong. And if you are a confident person, you're open to being wrong. And now I'm going to listen with curiosity, listen to your side of whatever it is we're discussing. And now, whilst the responsibility is in your court, I'm going to be listening. Yeah.
It's almost like, not that you would get to a debate, but a person who can debate well can do that very well, like the responsibility tennis. So they will agree or disagree and then shoot it back to you, but they're also open to having that done to them because they're confident in themselves, confident in being wrong, and confident in being open to hearing and learning something new.
Yeah. So next time somebody challenges the way you think, just simply hit the responsibility back into their court. Okay, help me understand that from your perspective. Yeah,
Yes.
share with me the way you look at that and learn. That's what confidence is. It's not just knowing what you know. It's also being open to being wrong. Yeah.
I think I've mentioned this before. It's also a good way of not taking stuff on board. So sometimes there are people in your life who may be in a group situation, and especially I'm thinking, when you're younger, when you're a teenager or very impressionable years, that people, if they're insecure, they want you to feel like that. So they will say something degrading or something to put you down, especially if you're in a group situation. And I've told the kids that if somebody does that to you, because it will happen, it does happen, that rather than taking it on and feeling less than or feeling like you're not worthy, because you know that they're doing it to be nasty or to make you look silly so that they don't, put it back on them. I don't know what you mean by that. Can you explain that? Most people, unless they're sociopaths, would realise that
what they've done,
what they've said,
I think
or
the sociopaths know what they've done as well.
Yeah, but they would then not repeat it or repeat it in a way. Oh no, I didn't mean that,
Well,
and then take it on
back on them, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Can you explain more about? Can you help me understand what you just said? Yeah. Can you repeat that? I'm not quite sure what your intent was there.
that's right. Or I'm sure you didn't mean to sound nasty. What was it that you meant?
Did you mean to sound nasty then? Did you mean to sound insulting? It's getting the power back in a bullying situation, I guess. That's interesting because at school I didn't have that ability. I was a very shy. I've told everyone this, shy, sensitive little sook, and so I took any banter in the schoolyard as bullying, and I was bullied by a particular guy. He delighted in making me feel like shit. I could just tell it in his eyes. But I've learned as I've got older that men, in particular, especially in construction and those sort of industries, hang shit on each other. I wouldn't be using this responsibility tennis in those sort of situations.
No, you've mentioned this before to me, and I really like the reason why.
Yeah.
And why you encourage it. And it's a good thing.
Yeah. So it's a way of men bonding and building rapport with each other, but there's a fine line, right? So you can tell when somebody's doing it intentionally to hurt somebody.
Do you think it's mainly an Australian thing?
No, it's definitely overseas as well.
Right.
So, let's go deep on this. So men hang shit on each other, and we do it for a particular reason. I used to think that, bullies were bullies when I was in school, but there's almost a biological reason to it. So if you want to know who somebody is, especially as a man in a workforce outdoor setting sort of situation, we hang shit on each other. Now, if you get upset, what do I know about you?
That you can't handle it.
That you can't handle stuff. You can't handle when the pressure's on. And so when we get into trouble, I don't want you on my team. This is a really weird way of men finding out who they can trust. So if I have a go at you and it impacts you and negatively, and you're kind of like sooky like I was as a kid, then I know I don't want you on my team when the shit hits the fan. Now, the other thing is, if I hang shit on you and then you get really nasty back, aggressive back, again, I don't want you on my team because I can't trust you. But if I hang shit on you and then you laugh and you hang shit on me and we kind of know the intent behind it and we're smart enough to understand the intent behind it, now you're on my team. You're somebody who'll have my back when the shit does hit the fan. And not a lot of people have taught this. In fact, I only discovered this kind of in the 30 years of teaching people, especially a lot of people out in field work, that men hang shit on each other to see if they can trust each other. Whereas I always saw it when I was at school as bullying. But there are bullies. There are people who intentionally try and hurt others through these techniques because they're not either emotionally aware and not emotionally intelligent enough to know what they're actually doing. And they're the sort of people you want to play responsibility with tennis with. You want to say something like, that sounded really insulting. Was that your intent, or were you just mucking around here, mate? But if you're like a bunch of mates I just went away with for a weekend where it's just constantly hanging shit on each other, but everyone's laughing, everyone's having the best time, then that's not That's not bullying. That's men bonding. It's really weird. And like I'm a man.
Wasn't that bullying over bullying? Wasn't that hanging shit on each other about which team you supported in the NRL and stuff?
It was. And so that's very different to the bullying that you often see in schoolyards where kids are actually trying to hurt each other because they're trying to figure out who they are. So when it's with malicious intent or malice, then that's when you play responsibility tennis. You say, okay, that sounded quite insulting. Was that your intent?
It's good in the workplace too, because you can. There are opposite politics, obviously, but you can, put it back on them. One, people have so much stuff going on in their lives, always have, but it comes in ebbs and flows, and it's just there. Often seems to be if someone is going through some tough stuff personally. They bring it to work, but they don't want to bring their home stuff to work, but it does impact them. So either they're short, they maybe strike out, or they go inside, or however they display it. But doing a responsibility tennis with them, one, it helps them get out there if they're saying snarky stuff.
Because sometimes they're not aware of it, are they?
No, that's right, because it's in their head about all the other stuff. And look, I get it. Life happens, and that's part of who that person is. But they've got stuff, and often they're in pain and hurting, but not. So if there's not an opportunity,
and if you say to them that came across as quite insulting, was that your intent? It gives them pause for thought,
or even asking, "Are you okay?
Are you okay? Yeah, this isn't you. This isn't how you normally are. What's going on?"
That's right, and that's a form of responsibility. Are you okay?
It is, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah. I just want to circle back around, if that's okay, back to what I was talking about before: men hanging shit on each other. It's very, very important that we understand when and where it's appropriate, and in a work environment, if what you're doing, the banter you're using, is upsetting the other person,
then it's not appropriate. Yeah,
then it's not appropriate, and it's your responsibility then to pick that person up and say, "Hey, mate, I wasn't serious.
No, it's out of line.
I was out of line. I'm really sorry." So expecting them to be able to banter back, that's where the line's been crossed. Yeah. So you do it. You can do it. If the person is bouncing it back to you, if you're having a game of what do you call it? We'll call it workyard tennis, workyard banter tennis. If it's coming back and it's coming back genuine and you can read it, then it's good. But if the person's kind of not, or just kind of laughing it off a little bit but not giving it back, then you might want to check in. You might have met somebody who is struggling and who is taking that as bullying, and that's really important as well. Understanding when that banter has become bullying, and it's a really fine line for some people. Like, you don't know that somebody is actually, you might think that they're taking it as banter, but they're actually deep down really hurting. You never know what's going on in somebody's life.
I've seen it used positively in the workplace where managers and leaders are getting the knowledge from their team. So rather than, if there's a team member comes and is always asking what next, and you're giving the answer, then they're not learning. They're just coming and asking. Whereas if you're trying to mentor them up, really, really get them up to you or above, and really encourage them in their career. The best way I've seen is like responsibility tennis, where what would you do?
Yes.
You tell me, what are the considerations? All those questions can be, whenever you get asked, what should I do next? Ask them, because they potentially also, one, it gives them an opportunity to step up. Two, it gives you the ability to see the edge of their knowledge and where you can help. But it also gives you the opportunity, and I remember a captain saying to me once when we were flying, and he would always say, what next? What do you think? Why do you think that? And I questioned him on it one day and said, you always ask, and you try and get more and more out of it. And he said jokingly, I think it was jokingly, that he said, "Oh no, well, you guys know more than me. You study more, so I'm asking you. It makes me sound wise by asking. And what would you do?
Wiser than what he's letting on.
That's right. But it gives you that opportunity to sound wise. And what would you do?
And what would you do? Well, that's part of the coaching principles that we teach, isn't it? Yeah. So you don't tell somebody how to do something. You ask them how they would approach it. Because if you tell somebody what to do, they're not learning. You ask them, and it engages the hippocampus, and they're learning.
Yeah.
And if we're always telling people what to do, we're creating what's called learned helplessness.
Yeah.
You've heard that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's where you should never do something for somebody else that they can do for themselves. So you should never think for somebody else when they can think for themselves. And so that technique of, hey, what would you do here, is a very, very powerful leadership technique, because you get the other person thinking rather than just following instructions.
Well, also, they may have a perspective that you've never heard of or thought of.
That's it.
So,
how do you innovate if you don't ask people to innovate?
That's it.
And if you're not open to listening. So responsibility tennis, hit the responsibility back in their court if they're whinging or pessimistic or got a prop throwing problems at you. Just say, okay, so how do we fix it? What can we do?
Yeah,
Or
and to help growth.
help growth, yes. If somebody's being negative, or if somebody's maybe sounding a bit short or a bit towards bullying, and you want to just ask them to clarify what their intent was. Yeah.
Or if you have no idea and you want to seem wise.
That's it. Or somebody's challenging your knowledge and you want to learn more from them, just say, yeah, okay, tell me more about that. The responsibility is now in their court. Responsibility tennis.
Yes, I like it.
Yes. All right, so I'm going to hit some responsibility over to Bose. Where are you? We've mentioned you many times in our podcast. Who else? Bollinger. Still haven't heard from you.
Yes.
Lint.
Yes, we've been supporting them.
Yeah, we've been supporting Lint, and we haven't supported Bollinger for a while, but maybe we should support them. Maybe that's why they're waiting for another
Order.
another order, or maybe they hear the fizz on the microphone, then they'll reach out. Anyway, so good to see you again, Michelle. Well, actually, we haven't done this for a while. Where can people find us?
So they can either go to newmemory.com.au
for the training.
But it's also, the podcast is on there.
That's right. We moved the podcast on to
there.
So, but if you want to go straight, you can still go to captainandtheclown.com.au.
.com.
We haven't said this right. captainandtheclown.com.
That's right.
Yes.
And then it's also on Spotify, on
Apple.
iTunes.
Well, that's probably how they found us in the first place.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
but if they want to find the training and the keynote speaking, newmemory.com.au.
yes.
Good to see you, Michelle.
Bye, guy.
Bye.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun.
You're such a clown.
The clown. Captain.
Lady Captain. There we go.
And who's going to listen to this? Maybe our mums.
Thanks, Mum.